They, MCOT was involved in 108 cases that they came to the scene on. Out of that, to give you an example, out of these 4,400 cases, 103 times we had to call emergency service to the scene. That meant it was a violent mental aid. Of those 103, 6 times we had to use force. All of the force that was used was physical force, not even a taser. Right? And I had 2 cops that were bit and one that got a split skull dealing with the mental aid, but they only used physical force and used their what we call verbal judo to talk them down. So all of these cases, nobody was injured. Not one out of 4,401 cases was any of these mental aid cases injured. We took them to the hospital because they need treatment. We're working with mobile crisis to make that better so we can bring that number down, that they don't need to all go to the hospital. We understand that. Again, mobile crisis is now in our station houses. They are using some of our facilities to respond from. They're on the road. We have a three-tiered system, which is built with a script that our 9/11 operators go. The first one, if you looked at it, tier 1 being the lowest, someone needs to talk to someone and it's called 911. Our communications bureau will transfer that to the MCOT cell number, which is the person on call, during the hours of 0800 to 2400. This is similar as if you call 227 talk. There is no police response if it's not necessary. If MCOT says, I have it, and they tell our 911 operator, I know who it is. This is Denise, we've dealt with her before, it's okay, we're going to go visit her. There's no violence, there's no threat of suicide, nothing of that. Okay, thank you. When we do that, we don't respond. MCOT's got it. They'll dispatch their own people. The second tier, someone having a mental breakdown is not an imminent threat of hurting themselves or others, but we'll transfer that to MCOT for evaluation for police response, but we're already responding because we don't know what that's going to end. We can't waste time getting there. So we're responding as 2 police officers and an ambulance to that location. If MCOT evaluates and says, no, it's okay, we're still going to go and do a wellness check. That's part of the second tier of this. But the idea of it is working with MCOT on a dual response. If they're out there and they say, wait before you go to the house, we will wait before we go to the house. They're in contact. They know the individual. They know most of their patients out there. And they do a fabulous job. Tier 3, somebody's acting out of breaking or destroying property or going to hurt themselves or another, we'll notify MCOT, and when MCOT gets there, once we got the scene under control, we'll then work with MCOT on what's the best outcome for this individual. Police response, again, is non-violent, is 2 cars and a supervisor. We always send a supervisor to these calls. We also have, if it's a violent, we'll send ESU and MCOT is notified. So again, the success has been good. The number shows that no one is getting hurt. But the treatment for the mental individual that's suffering from that mental health crisis can be better, meaning not getting him to a hospital and getting him to remain home. MCOT is working with that. They got almost their full staff. They are dispatching from the street now, and they are in quadrants throughout Nassau County. I spoke to you about the training. I went through that, and then I'll get into some of the numbers. IAU, I went through it. Okay, I went through the IAU stuff. Got it? I'm going into the numbers. All right, the first category we'll cover is our arrest data. Arrest data, we did 10,272 arrests last year. Total, if I'll just give it in percentage, is American Indian or Alaskan Native, 0.3%, Asian Pacific, 5.9%, African American, 35.6%, Hispanic Latino, 25.1%, other is 0%, unknown is 0%, white is 33.1%. That makes up to 100% of those who are arrested. The top areas where they're arrested is East Garden City, which is the mall. 64% of those that are arrested are our residents. 35.6% are non-residents here in Nassau County. So when we compare the data to the demographics of Nassau County, it's kind of an unfair number because, again, 35.6% do not reside in Nassau County. Of that, the #1 arrest that we do is controlled substance. 1,774 times. Our larcenies, 1,411. Forgery and related, 1,272. And assault and related, 911. That's the top 4 in the category, and there's more on the chart if you choose to look at it. Use of force data. We used force 440 times last year in the county. Understand what force means, and I'll give you some of the categories. Physical force, that is the number one. Out of the 440, it was 287. If I use an arm lock on you, which is a non-aggressive way of controlling the subject, it's twisting the arm to the elbow, an arm lock on you, that's a use of force. If the person struggles to put the cuffs on, that's a use of force. If we have to push him into the wall because he's not complying in a situation, that's a use of force. So we take a use of force just about for any time that is anybody that is just basically not compliant. We take that number. So out of the 10,000 arrests last year, we used force 440 times. Of those forces, they were physical force 287, the use of a stun gun 26, OC spray was 1, baton was 1, the canine is 14. We didn't bite nobody. We don't do that. We don't unleash our dogs and let them go. What happens is when we use a dog to go into search for somebody, that's a use of force. It's like taking your gun out. Your dog is in front of you. That's a use of force, so we record that. Weapon displayed 48 times, and for a total of 63, multiple 63. So that gets you back to the number 440. Again, out of 10,000 arrests and in Nassau County. So, field interviews. This is our field stops. Our field stops, again, we did 2,562 field stops. Asian Native, 0.4. Asian Pacific, 5.2. African American, 28. Hispanic, Latino, 24. And white, 39.3%. And again, of those, 36.5% do not reside here in Nassau County. Field interview, you don't need to know the times of the date and stuff, but they are on there that you can look at it. 1,923 people that were stopped were residents, that's 64%. 915 were non-residents, that's 30% of the makeup. Complaint data. So we had 379 complaints last year. I'm sorry, 491 complaints last year. That is down from the year before. I'm going to, again, bring that up, that I believe it has to do a lot with the fact that it is, again, body cameras starting to show a decline, and now that it's fully out there. Any excessive force, as I explained to you, or any unlawful conduct must go to the Attorney General. No option. Any 5 complaints in 2 years goes to the Attorney General. Our early alert system, or our early warning system, is in 3 times in 12 months. Out of the 1 million interactions with the public on our complaints, we get 0.1% complaints against our officers. Tickets and summonses. In 2019, we wrote 242,000 summonses. In 2020, we wrote 119,000. In 2021, we wrote 104,000. There's a reason for that, and I'll explain in a second. If you look at, again, Asian is 9.4%, African American is 20%, Hispanic is 21%, white is 37.2%, and a company, which is an organization, a company, they're at 7%. Of the 56% of those summonses make up our residents, 56%. 43.9% do not make up our residents. They are non-residents here in Nassau County. And 41% of our summonses are issued by the Highway Bureau up on the Highway Department. So it goes to show you the breakup of how it is. We have changed conversations with our officers about sensitivity, about going into a community, about looking at things like obstructed view in the windshield, corrective action. It doesn't need to be a summons. A tail light that's broken, we give a warning first time around. If we see that car a week later, he'll get the ticket by the same cop. So we're doing that through all our communities. That's why we're seeing the numbers. There's a large shift, as you just saw in those numbers, in the way they're being handled. of bias incidents and hate crime. We have a total of 50 reported incidents. Those that are found to be criminal are 28. These are not against our officers, this is against the public. And we have, again, 10 of those that we've made arrest. Our language line usage is 8,964 calls, totaling 50,000 minutes. Spanish, 8,441, Mandarin, 410, Korean, 48 calls, Haitian Creole, 46, Italian, 10, Cantonese, 5, Farsi, 4. And the rest of that, in that package that I've sent to you, is all of the documents related to diversity and recruitment, press releases on things that we've done as far as diversity. Our body-worn camera policy is in the document that you have. Some of our programs that we're doing, our encounters with transgender and non-binary, which I thank for the update and the help that you gave to correct some of the language in there. And our Explorer program in the back, and what we've done with the Explorers as part of using them for our outreach in the community. So that is the up-to-date one-year report. And again, for the first year, it's been very successful on the growing pains of what we had to do, technology. We have done, the team has done an excellent job, again, working with the community to get this done in a timely fashion. The body-worn camera itself is a massive, massive undertaking. It's a huge program. There are 4 supervisors and 25 or 26 people running that program with Discovery. And all they do all day long is look at videos, make sure we're being compliant. If there's a training issue, we send it back to the chief of department. We actually brought one officer in, he's putting himself at risk. He's making tactical mistakes, but doing a great job in being professional and following the law. But I still can't have him getting hurt out there. So that's where we are, and I'm open up for any questions.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Delia, I have questions, but I don't know if you have questions first. Delia?
I just have a couple quick ones. I might have more later, but just off the bat. When you mentioned that you refer like disciplinary issues if there's more than a certain number of incidences per year, when you refer to the AG, what steps happen after that?
So the Attorney General gives it to their investigators. We are required under the law to turn over all the evidence to them. They do an independent investigation. If they find, and they call it, if they call in my officer and my officer refuses to go for whatever reason, they have the right to terminate, which is something that, you know, it's of course our officers are going to go, but they get interviewed, they go through an extensive investigation, they'll give back the findings to us then for discipline.
That's what I was wondering. So do you get a copy of like a report from the AG?
I will get a copy from the AG, correct.
Okay, and then what do they recommend? What type of training or discipline?
Honestly, we haven't gotten one back
okay.
yet. So again, it started in March, and they were building their team. I don't think they really got up and running until June or so.
I'm just curious as to like what the follow-up is, or if the AG gets
Oh, the follow,
response,
the AG makes sure, we have to give them what was done with the individual, if he was terminated, and they have the right, they have the right to actually override my decision. If I didn't terminate someone, they have the right to do that.
Okay. The other question I had, when you mentioned non-residents, does that also mean like undocumented, or is it?
We don't ask that question.
Okay.
We don't.
So
none of my data will show anything about status of anybody.
I'm just wondering if it's people that don't live in Nassau, or people that don't have proof of.
No, it's only those that and again, it's those that do not reside in the county, and we know that when we ask them for their identification.
So you know that they reside somewhere else.
That's correct.
And I did notice with the hate crimes, the increase for the Jewish community went up quite a lot in the last 6 months. Are you seeing that? Are you evaluating?
So we get, fortunately, it's been mostly aggravated harassment calls, using phones, making threats. Fortunately, I mean the fact that there has been no violence here. We have no violent acts here in Nassau County against any of our minority communities, which is good. We can go back a year. We have other cases that there was. But again, Some of it, we have to show that it is a biased incident, so we can't make it a biased until we know for sure that it's a biased incident.
Yeah, I saw a number of them did follow up as a crime, so it does seem good. We did start, Legislator Arnold Drucker started a commission for anti-Semitism. It might be a good idea just to review that and
Absolutely.
add to that commission. And two other quick questions. Oh, the body cameras. Now, from what I understand, they have to be turned on for each incident.
Any interaction with the public, they gotta turn it on. So the interaction, obviously, is a traffic stop. It must go on. And it will be categorized by a switch on it that says traffic stop. They turn it on, it goes back 30 seconds. So their 30 seconds, whatever was done 30 seconds before they turn it on, is already recorded. It overwrites itself until we push the button to record. So it goes back 30 seconds. Then the volume starts 30 seconds later, and now what's being said is recorded. So, yes, correct.
And how is that? Is it cumbersome during a call, or people, are you getting any feedback with that extra step?